as I said, I used to be an international student, right? And I actually even kind of identify myself as an international student slash scholar, uh, because which is very significant identity for me. So in other words, research with international students is a research with ourselves. More specifically, research with international students means a process of humanizing international students and their experiences. So in the US higher education context, international students are still often viewed as resources, right? Like resources, financial resources, or resources of internationalization of higher education, or even like internationalization of experiences of domestic students. So in other words, for me, the research with international students should be the process to understand international student real experiences and their potential challenges as a human, and consider how we can promote our experiences as an international student and help them flourish in a host country.
For me, it's what I've always been doing. It's been researching with them, alongside them, and with the same profile as they have. So what I mean is when I was doing my master's, I was interviewing international students and I was experiencing the same things that they were experiencing. So things like motherhood and missing your children. Well, I only have one child, and at the time when I was studying my master's, I had to be away from my boy because I couldn't afford to bring him over to the UK. So for a full 14 months, um, I had to play the role of a distant mom and, of course, try to navigate things in my studies and in a different culture away from my country. So then when I spoke with other international students in the same type of situation, I really felt that I had mates. I had people who could relate with me and I could relate to. So what it meant to me was that I formed a community of people during this study, and I always heard from them that it's an important study that I was doing and that it was an opportunity for them to express themselves because they were usually just very busy and preoccupied with either taking care of their children, doing their PhD, or doing some part-time work because the people that I spoke with were from countries that were not as well off as the UK. So there was a big gap in the salaries, and a menial job would give them a good opportunity to save up. So it was the same with me. I did a lot of part-time work in the UK. So what it means to me is that during that time when I was doing especially my PhD, we there were moments when it felt like it was um, cathartic in a way and very um, like community forming, community building in a sense. But the 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 thing was we could only do like mostly one-on-ones. So recently I wrote this paper where um, I talk about what I would have wanted to do. I would have wanted to have a group study with them, but most of the time they were so busy that I couldn't really um, interview them at the same time in a room. So what I did in that paper was to imagine that we were all in the same room. So yeah, it's just there is a community out there, but they can't meet each other.
Right. So research with international students. So I think I will pick up on this with. So I think usually we are really heavily influenced by the idea of research on international students or research of international students, but we rarely speak of how we can do it with them. So I think for me, it mainly it transfer an idea and hope of that we can invite international students joining researchers to co-construct the process of research, to co-construct the knowledge, and I think it implies a notion of being more equal and inclusive and give more value to their own voices and experiences, which apparently is such an important dimension of research and to understanding this group as a whole.
Thank you. I think first I'll have to define what an international student is. An international student is someone studying outside their country. Hence, research with international students are scholarly studies that they study on international students, focusing on their experiences and developments in issues of internationalization of education institute. I see research with international students from three views. One is when an international student is being researched by academics. And secondly, it is when international students are co-researchers. And thirdly, an international student can be an insider researcher where they are both the research and the researcher. That's how I see what an international research with international students mean to me.
When I was an international student, I was in an institution where there were diverse population of students, and also faculty members in our institutions were very supportive, especially to international students. But I knew that that's not the experience of all international students across different institutions. And because I'm from education, so it's also like a calling to treat students or to impress like education as a practice for how to say for facilitating everyone's development or to achieve social justice, to get closer to the goal. And so therefore I always have the calling that if I'm in a position where I can support or provide more resources to students, then there would be an important task, but important mission that as an educator also need to pay attention to. And so researching with international students is for me is not only about research, but also to really meet students as a human being, and to understand their how they experience their study at the moment, and also what they have experienced as challenges, not only in their study but also in their life. Because when you especially the first time confront with different cultures, and there would be something interesting, but at the same time probably would be unequally challenging for students with different social background.
So I think for me, doing research with international students is really about how we approach the research and also very much about the methods we use. So I think as a researcher, it means that I try to involve the students very actively into the research process, aiming then also to create a more relational balance between the students and me as the researcher, also as more like equal partners and co-creators rather than me, the researcher, having a more powerful position. And I think this then also means to reflect on my own position and who I am in the process or in the research process. And it's not just then about my personal reflections, but also getting into dialogue with the students about my intentions, my interests, and also my perspectives, and sometimes also analytical insights. So I think doing research with international students is also really about showing a genuine and like honest interest in their lives and experiences, and seeking to also understand like the intersectional facets of the students' identities. Because also I think then when we in some ways portray the students in or through our writing, I feel it's also then to highlight and unravel these very significant variations in their experiences. And so I think doing research with international students is about developing inclusive and ethical research designs and processes, and that means also to give emphasis to the students' own understandings and practices and ways of being and ways of knowing, and recognizing their individual capabilities. I guess then also in that way to kind of counter any like deficit narratives or perceptions in like research concerning international students.
For me, it's providing that voice, that marginalized voice of international students out there. And I don't just believe in writing publications. I do believe that we have to project their voice or voices beyond publication, like what we are doing now. I've also embarked on a project that I would love to animate my findings. Who reads our journal papers or thesis anyways, isn't it? I don't think so. International students are reading those papers except academics. So I have done one animated findings, but because of I'm time poor, I could not go beyond that one animated finding. But that's my project for this year and next year. I just want the society, I just want the broader community to know what are the struggles of international students, what opportunities that they can bring to the home country, to the host country, or to the third country. And that's what it means to me. That's why I have got so much of vested interest to conduct research with international students. And I was one of them many months ago. So I know we have got a lot of challenges, but we also have opportunities, we have benefits and to provide to the greater good.